Long before our fathers drew breath, the drum was carved from the heart of a sacred tree. When his voice calls, the spirits rise, and the living tremble, for the earth remembers. In the heart of Abala village, where the soil was redder than blood and the trees whispered to each other long after nightfall, there stood a hut unlike any other. It was tucked behind 7 palm trees and guarded by a crooked fence made of bones. Some animal, some not. Children were warned never to go near it, not just out of fear but tradition. That hut belonged to Ukachi, an old woman whose name was only spoken during storms. They said she had no family, but also that she had too many to count, because her children were not of flesh, but of whispers and wind. Ukachi was known as Nnemunye Mo, the woman married to spirits. No one had seen her husband, yet the spirits that accompanied her were always felt. Fires flickered on her roof every new moon, and strange chants echoed from her walls at dawn. Goats gave birth too early when they grazed too close. Mothers miscarried when they walked past her with envy in their hearts. Something about the air around her compound made the living forget themselves and remember things they never lived. Yet, no one confronted her. Not the chief, not the dibia, not even the churchmen who came with their holy water and plastic crosses. Her presence was tolerated like thunder, distant, feared, and never questioned. Ukachi's hut became a boundary between what was known and what was never meant to be understood. Ebele, a slender girl of 13 with eyes too sharp for her age, had always been drawn to what others avoided. The village said she was cursed from birth. Her mother had died giving birth to her, and her father, a hunter, vanished in the forest 3 days later. Raised by the indifferent hands of the orphanage matron, Ebele learned quickly that silence was survival and questions were dangerous. But her silence didn't mean she wasn't curious. At night, she would sit by the cracked windows of the girls' dormitory, watching the distant flickers from Ukachi's hut. They moved like fireflies, but pulsed with something heavier, like breathing. The dream started soon after her 13th birthday. Faint drumming beneath her bed, a woman humming in a language she didn't understand, and her own name whispered, not by one mouth, but by many. She told no one, not even Ngozi, her only friend, who had once dared her to touch the fence outside Ukachi's compound and had ended up with boils on her palms that oozed pus for weeks. The humming in her dreams grew louder, more urgent, and on the 7th night, she woke up with her feet covered in red dust, the same earth from beneath the forbidden palm trees. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but anticipation. Something had called her, something older than the village, older than the gods in the shrines, something that lived between heartbeat and shadow. And Ebele, young as she was, made a decision no child should have to make. She would answer. The path to Ukachi's hut wasn't one anyone needed to be taught. If it called to you, your feet would know where to go. That was how it had always been. And as dusk folded itself over the village like a dark wrapper, Ebele slipped away from the orphanage, her feet moving of their own accord. The bamboo groves that lined the back of the village parted soundlessly for her, the way leaves shift for wind that's long expected. She passed no one, yet she felt watched. The air was thick, not with heat, but memory. The scent of burnt herbs and river stones clung to her nostrils. When she reached the gate of Ukachi's compound, she expected to feel afraid, but instead, her skin tingled with familiarity, as if she had been there before in a time she could not place. The gate, woven from old rope and jawbones, opened slowly with a groan that echoed like a sigh. The yard inside was not what she expected. There were no skulls, no cauldrons or devilish symbols as the stories claimed. Instead, it was silent, almost reverent. Crimson hibiscus bloomed out of season around the central stone altar, and the air buzzed with invisible bees. Ukachi sat there, cross-legged on a woven mat, her back impossibly straight, her hair white and flowing like river foam. She did not look up, but her voice carried like the rustle of a dying tree. "You came," she said. "The river has been patient." Ebele stepped forward, unsure whether her knees moved from obedience or trance. Ukachi turned then, her eyes a milky white, unseeing yet piercing.
"The humming will grow. Take this."
From a calabash at her side, she drew a long twisted tooth, blackened with age, and strung on what looked like a sinew of dried flesh.
"Swallow only when the drumming begins beneath your ribs. Not before, not after."
It wasn't just a relic. It pulsed faintly, as if alive, as though whatever spirit resided inside it had been disturbed by her presence. Her fingers trembled as she took it, and the moment her skin touched the sinew, a deep vibration throbbed through her spine. It felt like the earth beneath her had momentarily shifted. Ukachi's lips moved again, but no sound came from them. Yet the words pressed themselves into Ebele's skull like fingers writing on wet clay.
"Your body is a drum, your blood the river. Your voice will call what must not be named."
Ebele opened her mouth to question her, but Ukachi raised a single skeletal finger.
"Silence until the seventh call. You'll know it."
Then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, Ukachi began to fade. Not vanish, but blend into the shadows of her own heart, like smoke absorbed into a dark room. The hibiscus petals around Ebele withered in seconds. The altar cracked down the middle, and the breeze turned sour, like rotten yam. With the tooth string clenched tightly in her palm, Ebele stumbled backward, heart pounding like footsteps in a panic. As she crossed the gate, it swung shut on its own, nearly catching the hem of her wrapper. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Every step toward the orphanage felt heavier, as though she carried not just herself, but a presence that hadn't fully uncoiled. That night, she didn't sleep. The humming began again, softer this time, more rhythmic. Her name echoed in it like a refrain, but now it was no longer coming from her dreams. The morning after Ebele's strange encounter with Ukachi, everything felt off. The sun rose too slowly, casting long, reluctant shadows over the orphanage compound. Birds chirped in reverse patterns, then went silent entirely. The air felt thick, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Ebele woke to find red dust on her bedsheet. Too red to be clay, too fine to be sand. Her dreams had been vivid, threaded with images of serpents dancing in fire, and voices humming an ancient song she somehow recognized, but could not name. Her fingers itched. When she washed her face, she noticed a small black spiral etched beneath her left eye, like a tattoo. It hadn't been there the day before. She scrubbed at it frantically, but the mark remained. cool to the touch and pulsing faintly as though alive. The other girls began to whisper about her. Even Ngozi, her closest friend, started slipping farther away. During morning devotion, as they sang hymns, Ebele heard a second harmony layered beneath the music, a voice humming directly in her ear. When she turned, no one was there. That night, she opened the cloth bundle Ukachi had given her. Inside lay something strange, a tooth, human in shape, but blackened and humming faintly like a struck bell. Wrapped in palm fiber, it carried the same spiral symbol now tattooed under her eye. Ebele stared at it for hours, trembling. Finally, she hid it under her mattress. But from that moment on, the humming never stopped. Not when she bathed, not when she prayed, not even when she buried her head beneath her pillow. It had entered her. It was her now. The humming grew louder over the next few days. Even when Ebele was wide awake, it followed her to the stream, to the chapel, even into the lavatory at night. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It had rhythm, intention, like a second heartbeat. One evening, as the sun bled purple into the sky, she sat alone behind the dormitory, clutching the blackened tooth Ukachi had given her. Her body buzzed like a calabash full of angry bees. Then it happened. The drumming started, not in her ears, but beneath her ribs, exactly as Ukachi had said. Slow at first, then faster, deeper, reverberating through her bones. She dropped to her knees, her vision blurred. The world around her bent and stretched like hot plastic. Through the ringing in her skull, she remembered Ukachi's command, swallow. Her fingers found the tooth. Without thinking, she shoved it into her mouth, dry swallowed it like a shard of fate. It tore her throat, but she didn't bleed. Instead, the drumming stopped, and her ears filled with absolute silence, so deep it hurt. Then came the voice. It was not a human voice. It spoke in chords and echoes, in notes that fluttered like bats inside her skull.
Welcome, river child, vessel, drum.
The world returned in fragments. Her eyes opened, but they didn't see the dormitory yard. She stood in a field of grey grass, under a moon that pulsed red like an infected eye. The air smelled like ash and iron. All around her, shadows danced, limbs too long, heads like melted clay, teeth where eyes should be. They hummed in unison, swaying like reeds in storm water. In the center stood a figure, cloaked in feathers and smoke. It had no face, but it knew her.
You are the seventh, the last, the key.
It lifted a bony hand, and a ripple moved through the ground. Ebele tried to scream, but her mouth had no sound. Instead, her skin began to open in spirals, revealing not flesh, but symbols, ancient and burning.
The whisper must be carried. You will bleed songs,
it said, then vanished. When she woke, she was back behind the dormitory, covered in grey dust and petals that no tree in Abala bore. After that night, nothing in the village remained the same. Animals began to avoid her, their eyes rolling wildly when she approached. Ngozi, her friend, began to sleepwalk, muttering a word that sounded like Booba, though she swore she'd never had it before. The matron claimed to find feathers in Ebele's bed, black ones that reeked of smoke and seaweed. Then the death started. First, old Baba Kelechi, who had once tried to exorcise Ukachi with a burning cross. His body was found inside a tree, eyes pecked out, skin covered in unreadable glyphs. Then one of the chapel boys, who had laughed at Ebele's silence, his mouth split open mid-sermon, and he screamed until his voice tore. His tongue vanished, leaving only a worm that writhed and died in the holy water. The village grew quiet, too quiet. Even the birds stopped singing at dawn. Ebele spoke to no one, but her eyes told stories no child should have lived. At night, the orphanage shook with humming. Ukachi appeared again, not in flesh, but in reflection, in mirrors, in poodles, in polished spoons, always watching, sometimes smiling. Her voice came in riddles.
The river rises when drums obey.
Or,
a spirit unpaid returns for change.
Ebele began drawing with chalk, symbols she didn't recognize. They glowed faintly under moonlight and sometimes hummed when she passed. Ngozi grew sick, coughing feathers, her veins blackening like burnt threads. Ebele tried to stay away from her, but it was too late. The presence inside her had bloomed. It wanted more. It wanted to sing, to break through skin and sky. One night, the matron came to beat Ebele for insubordination. Before the cane struck, she froze, levitated a few inches above ground, her mouth unhinging, her eyes turning red. Then she spoke in a dozen voices at once, all calling Ebele mother. When she dropped, she did not wake. The elders held an emergency gathering at the village square. The dibia cast cowries and saw nothing but cracks.
The girl is a path,
he said.
Something walks through her.
They tried cleansing rituals. They tried chaining her inside the shrine, but the chains melted into her skin and re-emerged as markings. She no longer ate food. She fed on sound, on vibrations, on fear. Ngozi died that week. Her body burst into black mist just before dawn. Her last words were, "She's not Ebele anymore." Ebele stopped using doors. She simply appeared. Her voice could mimic anyone's, even the dead. At night, the dead came too, whispering to those who had wronged Ukachi decades ago. Secrets spilled, marriages ended. The chief himself confessed to burying his brother alive to become ruler. Then his mouth filled with scorpions, and he screamed into madness. Ebele sat on the church altar the next morning, weaving bones into her hair. The church was abandoned. The shrine burned. The people began to flee, but not all could leave. The air itself turned into something sentient. Walls of wind blocked exits, and the soil battered hands that pulled back those who tried to run. Abala began gathering children. They came to her willingly, humming. They called her Mother of Echoes. She sang to them in the spirit tongue, and they forgot their names. The bones of birds formed crowns on their heads. Ukachi's heart, once silent, now pulsed with light, red, blue, then black. Villagers said it had grown teeth, and once it was seen crawling. Ebele's skin glowed with markings, constantly shifting. She stopped speaking Igbo or English. Her laughter could make water boil. The land had become hers. Then, one storm-heavy night, the clouds split. A soundless lightning cracked open the sky, and from it descended 7 figures, tall, veiled in mist, eyes like open wounds. They were the keepers, summoned only when the balance between spirit and flesh is undone. They walked through fire and sorrow, immune to all Ebele's new power. She stood before them, not afraid but curious.
Why do you come?
she asked in a voice that was no longer hers.
To collect what was never meant to awaken.
The tallest said. They held a drum carved from obsidian, its membrane made from forgotten skin. The moment it sounded, Ebele screamed, not in pain, but in ecstasy. Her body split, and from within her, a serpent of wind and names burst free, roaring across the sky. The children wailed in unison, their crowns dissolving. The heart of Ukachi crumbled into itself, then vanished. When dawn broke, silence reigned. The village was empty, save for dust and feathers. No one remembered Ebele's name, not even the Dibia, who went mad trying to recall it. The orphanage stood abandoned, its windows weeping condensation. In the forest, the ground was redder than ever, and the trees whispered still. But now they whispered in the voice of a girl, curious, cold, and external. Somewhere beneath that soil, something still hummed. Ukachi's spirit had returned to the river, but Ebele's had not. It had become something else entirely. They say if you stand at the edge of Abala during Harmattan, you might see her, a girl with chalk white eyes and feathers for fingers, humming beneath her breath. She won't harm you if you bow and whisper a song only the dead know. But woe to the one who mocks her or doubts her tale. They vanish, not die, just cease to have ever been. Their names plucked from memory, their faces smudged in photographs. One boy tried to film her with his phone. The device exploded. His house was found upside down, family missing. Only a single hibiscus flower remained blackened and humming. The elders of neighboring villages have warned, do not dig near Abala. Do not speak her name. Do not whistle after sunset. And above all, never swallow what the spirits give, even if it calls to your blood. Ebele is no longer a girl. She is a passage, a rhythm, a womb for forgotten gods. Her whisper lives in thunder. Her eyes blink through fireflies. She is the last drum, and the world is not ready for her song. And still she waits, in echoes, in silence, in unborn thoughts. Every 7th year, a girl somewhere dreams of humming and wakes with red dust on her feet. It is not a curse, it is a cycle. Ukachi was the river, Ebele became the drum. What comes next is the song, and when it begins, it will not end. Not until the world remembers what it forgot when it buried its spirits, mocked its ancestors, and silenced its whispers. The whisper is returning, and this time it will not ask permission. Moral of the story: do not ignore the whispers of your past, for what you bury may one day rise through someone else's skin. This story is a chilling reminder that spiritual legacies, whether good or cursed, do not die with silence. Curiosity without caution, especially into forbidden realms, opens doors that cannot be shut. Children carry ancestral burdens, especially in cultures where spirits and memory are bound. And most importantly, what society casts out as strange or dangerous, like Ukachi, often holds truths too heavy for the world to accept. Thanks for watching. Please do remember to like and share. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you like more amazing and wonderful stories. Catch you in the next story. Bye.